She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another day and she solving another case. Cause she litigate with dignity and grace. She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another day and she solving another case. Cause she litigate with dignity and grace.
Hello, litigators and opinionators. I have some very devastating news. News that I actually talked to you guys about 3 months ago. I'm going to play a clip from my video that I did 3 months ago, telling you and warning you about the causation issues in the case, and that one of the issues that the criminal prosecutors and those involved would be causation. There was a lot of causation issues, and I'm going to play a clip from that, and I'm actually going to attach my video that I did 3 months ago about it after I share the updates. But it looks like, guys, there's not going to be any justice in this case. The FBI is alleging that there is no causation. The family is expected to speak out today, which is Wednesday. So I'm going to play this clip, guys. My voice is pretty somber today because it's a very sad news that it was broke according to NCB. And I don't think NCB would make this up because he's pretty in tune with the family. The family's following him closely on their Instagram. They work with him. They talk to him. So they obviously shared this information with him. So I am inclined to believe what he said, but I'm going to read his article also. This is just very horrible news, guys. Very horrible news. But I'm going to play this clip real quick.
Robinson, along with the family for Shanquella Robinson, along with one of their attorneys, is speaking tomorrow, nearly 6 months after she died in Mexico. The community and the family, they've been looking for answers and bigger involvement from federal authorities ever since her passing. That announcement, that briefing, it's set for 1:30 tomorrow. WCNC Charlotte will have a crew there. We'll bring you the latest details.
And we're
And this was posted, guys, yesterday. This thing that I just showed you, it was posted yesterday, about 13 hours ago, and it says that family speaks out Wednesday. So there will be a press conference. So I will do a follow-up video, but I wanted to break this news to you immediately because it's horrible, sad, and I wanted you guys to know because everybody has been very, very, very closely following this case. So it's horrific, guys. Cabo 6 basically will be getting away allegedly with the murder of Shanquella Robinson, and allegedly no charges will be filed. This is according to North Carolina Beat. As I mentioned, I'm inclined to believe North Carolina Beat. He's been pretty much on the case, and he works with the family. He talks to the family. He has their phone number on, quick dial up. So if he heard this information, I'm inclined to believe him, and I'm very devastated to hear this news. But guys, I remind you, it goes back to what I talked to you guys about 3 months ago. If anybody has been subscribed to me, I will play that clip that I talked to you about, that I said that they were going to say there was some type of causation issue involved. And that's what they're saying, basically. But here it is. According to North Carolina Beat, the U.S. prosecutors met with Shanquella's family Wednesday and broke the news to them. And today's Wednesday, so this news is fresh. This news was just broke to them today, right now, today, guys. United States Attorney Dina King released a statement saying there was insufficient evidence against the Cabo 6 to bring criminal charges. This is so messed up, man. She literally got away with murder. That's so sad, allegedly. Based on the results of the autopsy and after careful deliberation and review of the investigative materials by both U.S. Attorney's Office, federal prosecutors informed Ms. Robinson's family today that the available evidence does not support a federal prosecution. And that's why this case has been delayed, because they were trying to prove causation. And there was a lot of issues with the autopsy, and the Mexico government, they pretty much dropped the ball. And I talked to you guys about this before, about their low conviction rate. The man or the doctor, whoever was involved, who did the autopsy, he wasn't even licensed to do autopsies. He was like a surgeon or whatever. So that was something I talked to you guys about 3 months ago. That was a big issue. And it turns out that was actually the issue. I mean, at first, a lot of people were coming up with different theories, and I was inclined to believe Nancy Grace's expert, but my original theory back in 3 months ago was that it was going to be a causation issue. And that is exactly what happened here. Wow, it's so sad. On October 29th, 2022, Shanquella was brutally beaten while she was on a trip with so-called friends in Cabo, Mexico. Khalil Cook, Malik Dyer, Winter Donovan, Nazir Wiggins, Dejanay Jackson, and Elise Hyatt. The FBI told the family that their autopsy differed from Mexico's. And because Shanquella's body was already embalmed, they could not do a thorough autopsy. And again, this is at the fault of Mexico government. They have done this in another case that I talked to you guys about, where they embalmed the man's body when they alleged that he had died of alcohol poisoning. That they are very there's a lot of unethical things going on with Mexico government, and when they try to cover up murders like this because they just don't want to have to prosecute them, they quickly embalm the body so that they can prevent any forms of accurate autopsies or tests that's done, in my opinion, because they did this in another case that we talked about on my channel. But this is very devastating. So they embalmed the body when they did the autopsy. So before the family actually did the funeral, and I talked about this again several months ago, the father discussed on an interview with Gerald that the FBI was doing their separate autopsy. So during that separate autopsy that was conducted by the FBI, they're basically saying they seen different results. And that is definitely why there was causation issues. The doctor that in Mexico who did the original autopsy was not certified or qualified to do autopsies in the first place. There was a lot of issues that happened in Mexico that led to this case basically not being prosecuted in America, and there's not going to be an extradition. This is horrific, guys. In my heart, I know what I believe happened, in my opinion, but you know what? Because of what Mexico did, they dropped the ball in so many ways. The doctors weren't certified. They weren't even qualified to do what they're supposed to do. The person who did the autopsy wasn't even licensed. There was a lot of careless conduct done with the body. Then they embalmed the body, which prevents accuracy in the autopsy. It was a lot of problems. The FBI acknowledged that Shanquella had brain damage, but couldn't determine her cause of death. And that's exactly what I told you guys. If you guys have been listening to me, I was on point 3 months ago. I said it was going to be a causation issue, and that's exactly what they're saying. Sources said that the FBI told the family that according to the witnesses, they spoke with Shanquella. They say, so FBI said, this part is straight BS. Sources said that the FBI told the family that according to witnesses they spoke with, Shanquella agreed to fight. Who agrees to fight naked? It doesn't matter if she agrees to fight. Now they're victim blaming this woman, saying, oh, well, she agreed to it, so it is what it is. Are you serious? Wow, I'm so enraged. The Robinson family will hold a press conference in Charlotte, North Carolina at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So that press conference I will be coming back to talk to you about tonight, because of course I'm working. I'm just doing a quick work break real quick to talk to you about this because it's so horrific. But that's the update, guys. The FBI is not going to be prosecuting. Just as I said 3 months ago, they are saying it's a causation issue. And I knew that was going to be a causation issue, given my prior prosecuting experience as a criminal prosecutor. I knew they were going to say that. Man, let me play this video that I did 3 months ago to refresh your recollection of what we talked about if you didn't watch that live. That I did reference this information 3 months ago. It's so horrific, guys, but I'll be playing this for you, and we will be doing a follow-up of the press conference, guys. My heart is so crushed right now. I just want to cry, but let me refresh your recollection of what I talked about 3 months ago and what I think where the FBI is going with this. I talked about on a prior video that there's questions about whether this doctor here is actually a true doctor. She actually specializes in technology in her work there. There's been no indications that she even has a license or qualified to do what she does. Now there's information coming out about the doctor, guys, who did the autopsy. Sorry, guys. No one tried to hear that. But the doctor, there was a death certificate that was released, as everybody is aware. And in that death certificate, as you guys can see, it lists the doctor here as a forensic doctor, Renee L. Gavin Osugerda, with a license number here. But there was another doctor that analyzed this particular doctor and this doctor's qualifications, And it turns out that this doctor is a surgeon, not an actual doctor who is qualified to conduct autopsies. So this doctor doesn't even have, allegedly, the proper licensing, training, credentials to conduct an autopsy. This case has significant holes. And as an attorney, I can tell you that a defense attorney will dismantle this case tremendously in many ways. For example, starting with the causation, there is a huge hole as it relates to causation from the injuries that are alleged that Shanquella has. The first doctor here, who I question her credentials, she claimed that she did several hours of CPR. A defense attorney is going to argue that the severe injuries to Shanquella's neck and her back was not caused by Dejanay, but were in fact caused by this doctor here on the screen that was doing all the aggressive CPR. And then that could not even be the issue. The doctor, the defense attorney will also argue that the doctor here, Renee A. Galvin Osugura, does not have the medical licensing to qualify him to administer an autopsy. He does surgeries on live persons, people who are living, allegedly, but he does not have a license to conduct autopsies. So there could be an argument there as it relates to causation to say, well, what is to say that this doctor did not cause the severe injuries to Shanquella when he conducted the autopsy? They are going to dismantle everything about this death certificate as lacking credibility. So there are severe holes, significant holes in this case, which is why the FBI is at a standstill right now, because they literally have to work this case from the bottom up. And there is a problem as it relates to causation in terms of the injuries that Shanquella has. They are going to challenge it as it relates to the doctors, 2 doctors involved. They lack credentials allegedly to even do their jobs. And so, guys, we're dealing with some big issues in this case that raises the question as to whether we will find justice for Shanquella. I want to play this snippet for you, and then I'm going to talk to you about the low conviction rate as it relates to Mexico. So as you can see, I literally predicted this 3 months ago. Let me make this lower. You can see here the date that I did this video, streamed 3 months ago. And I'm going to keep playing it because I know a lot of you didn't get to watch it. It didn't get much views, only got 1.8. But y'all should have watched this 3 months ago, because literally I told you exactly 3 months ago what the prosecutor, when the FBI was going to determine. And they literally did. It's unfortunate and it's heartbreaking, because in my soul, I was praying that there was going to be some magical evidence out there that was going to fix the causation issues at hand. And it all stems back to the underlying fault of this case for why it's not going to be prosecuted is back to Mexico, which is why I have been saying hashtag boycott Mexico, because they messed up this entire case. They didn't even have qualified people involved. They dropped the ball in so many ways. There was causation issues with this doctor who was administering all these aggressive CPRs that could have caused injuries to this woman. I mean, and that's what a defense attorney would argue. And then we had a person who was not qualified to do an autopsy. Then they embalmed her body. Now we're finding out, we didn't know that before. Now we're finding out that they embalmed this woman's body. So that messed up even more causation issues. So it all stems back to it's Mexico's fault. But I'm going to keep playing this video, guys. It's horrific. And that at this point, we need to really start raising our voices, because people are getting way too quiet. And the more quiet we get, the closer we get to justice. There are some huge holes in this case, which is why the case is not progressing and why there is a huge delay. And the FBI will not move until they have enough evidence. And there's so many holes in this case. That is why the case is a standstill. Here you could even see here, she's not even really administering aid to Shanquella. She's just looking at her. And I don't even know if this is a good photo, guys. Again, what's to say? But let's play this recording from this. There's a doctor who is in Mexico on another person's live. I got this recording from Down the Rabbit Hole. She's the one that did the interview and did the translation. But it's quite disturbing, the information they received. So it is important to at least hear it. I'm not going to put her photo up on there. I'm just going to put Shanquella's photo up, and you're just going to hear the audio. But you guys get the point, okay? So we'll do that, and then I'll show you why I feel there's a problem in this case. There's so many holes, and a defense attorney will dismantle it, and why the FBI is trying to build a case from the bottom up, and there are so many holes in this case, which is why the FBI has not been able to move forward in any arrests at this time. There's problems in this case, guys. Causation issues, evidence issues, lack of qualifications for both doctors, especially the doctor who did the autopsy, which could lead to an acquittal and literally the Cabo Six walking away with no charges. So we're dealing with some big issues right now. Sorry, guys. I thought I was sharing it, but I wasn't. Here, let me stop sharing that and share what I was trying to share with y'all. Apologies for that brief delay here. Here it is, what I wanted to play for you.
Esta es una información que yo investigué en relación a, por ejemplo, quién hizo específicamente la necropsia médico-legal de Shanquella. El nombre está descrito dentro del certificado de defunción. Sé perfectamente que quien emite el certificado de defunción es el doctor René Adalberto Galvano Ceguera. Y tiene un número que es su cédula profesional. Este médico, y ahí entra más controversia todavía, y esa es la tristeza de la que yo hablo en relación a las pobres investigaciones. Este médico es un médico cirujano. Eso quiere decir que es un médico general.
Oh, entonces no es especial. So, oh shoot, guys, I didn't have it on mute. Sorry, guys. Basically, what that doctor said, that doctor that was just speaking, he is Dr. Valero. He has an extensive amount of credentials, and he was interviewed on Danny Robinson's page. And if you want to go look at that, she's called Truth Teller Danny, I think that's her name. Go to her page because she has the full interview. But I'm just doing a snippet because, again, this is her work, and you guys need to go look at her video if you want to get the full. But this Dr. Valero here is basically saying that the doctor on the autopsy is just a general practitioner. He is not a specialist. So he does not have the licensing to conduct the autopsy. That raises huge evidentiary issues in a prosecution. And see, that's the problem, guys, why the FBI has not moved in arresting the Cabo Six, why they have not conducted the extradition, guys. There is not enough evidence at this time. And as I talked about before, the FBI has to do its own investigation to see if the Mexico's evidence is sufficient. And at this time, it's not. The two individuals that claim to be doctors don't even have qualifications to do their jobs, individual jobs. The doctor here who did the autopsy doesn't even have the licensing to do an autopsy. That would be huge problematic issues, evidentiary issues, proof issues for a defense attorney. The defense attorney would argue that that doctor lacked the credentials to administer an autopsy. So there is no evidentiary proof that they even conducted an efficient autopsy. There's no evidence that they actually, where did and how did they determine the injuries to Shanquella was caused by the beating and not caused by, for example, some malpractice issues with the other doctor, Carolina, or with issues with how the autopsy was conducted, because the individual who conducted the autopsy doesn't even have licensing to do it, guys. This case would not hold water in a trial. It's not even an American trial, because in America, you have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest burden in the United States. And in the United States, this case would not be able to fly at all in any trial. And the FBI, they have a 98% success rate. So they're not going to move forward in trying to arrest Dejanay or Cabo 6 or extradite or anything like that. You know, they don't do the extradition part, but you know what I mean. The other departments involved, the executive branch and so forth, they're not going to move unless there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And the Mexico evidence right now doesn't even hold weight, period. And as I mentioned before, that Mexico warrant has to be changed. It has to be basically, we can't do anything with a Mexico warrant. So it has to be turned into a U.S. warrant, which means in the court of law in the United States, when a magistrate sees the complaint that was received by the Office of Internal Affairs, they have to see whether there's enough evidence to move forward. And as it stands here right now, because there were 2 doctors involved that don't have the qualifications, the investigation was done very poorly and sloppy. Guys, there's so many evidentiary issues in this case. It's not even funny. That's why we haven't seen any arrests. That's why we haven't seen any extraditions. And that's why the case is literally at a standstill, because the FBI doesn't even have enough evidence to move forward. There's so many causation issues. And it's no fault to the FBI. It's the fault of the Mexico authorities and the investigators, the officers involved. There's a lot of corruption in Mexico. I'm going to talk about an article to show you what I mean. Guys, this case has a lot of holes in it. And I'm telling you, as an attorney, there's no way. If I were to bring this case, if I would have had this case as a prosecutor, I would not be able to move forward. It would be insufficient evidence, because the doctor who did the autopsy doesn't even have licensing to do that. He's a general practitioner. He's literally a doctor that helps people who are alive, not deceased individuals. He does surgeries and all the medical treatment on individuals who are alive, you and me, not Shanquella. There's a huge hole in causation. That is why there's a delay, guys. There may not even be justice. If the FBI can't repair this case, and actually they had to literally do their own autopsy. But the problem is there's so many issues related to what Mexico did initially, whereas the doctors involved, the fake, not qualified doctor who did the autopsy, who didn't have the certifications to do that has a deep hole in the evidentiary case, because it relates to chain of custody. They don't know who caused these injuries to Shanquella at this point. The officials can't prove it. Okay, they can't prove it. What matters is what can be proved in court. And because there's all these issues in the chain of custody as it relates to the doctors who lacks the credentials and qualifications, guys, now it makes sense. Because as I was telling you before, I was getting, emotional in one video, and I was like, there should have been an arrest already. This should already been moving. There should have been progress. Well, that's why the FBI has been quiet, because they're trying to figure out how they're going to prove this case. And Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, they were unable to prove it. That was 3 months ago that I talked about that I did this video, guys. And my hope and prayer was that some way, somehow, they were going to be able to remedy all the evidentiary issues that stemmed and all fall at the fault of Mexico. That's why I said y'all want to go out there and go to Cabo and have fun and live your best life. It's not the place to be as an American. The reason why this case has failed and there's evidentiary holes is because Mexico dropped the ball. In my opinion, I believe what I know what happened, what I saw on that camera. But the issue is, can you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law? And unfortunately, because of all the evidentiary problems with the two lack of experience, as we can see, inexperienced, unqualified doctors, and all of the problems with causation, that's the issue. Because we saw a little snippet of a video. But what a defense attorney would argue in court is, what happened with the unqualified doctor who did all this excessive amounts of CPR that could cause injuries? What happened with the transportation of the body, with the embalming that could have caused? There's all these interventions of different things that happened during, the transfer of the body and all that with Mexico, and the fact that they didn't even have a qualified person to even do the autopsy, which there could have been issues in that. Now we're hearing from the FBI that the results of their autopsy was completely different than the autopsy results of Mexico. So it's all kind of issues, guys. My heart is so hurt. And yes, you can still see the injuries even with embalming. But the problem is, when it comes to prosecuting a case, you have to be able to also refute any arguments from the defense attorney. And a defense attorney is going to go with what their client says, which their client is going to claim that there was alcohol intoxication. And because the FBI was unable to even test for that, because once a body is embalmed, you can't try to find out what the blood alcohol level was at that point because the body's embalmed. So it would strip the prosecutor of their ability to refute an argument of alcohol poisoning, because now the FBI can't do that type of test with an embalmed body. So that would cause holes too, because now how are they going to refute what the defense attorney is saying? They can't prove either way that there's alcohol poisoning at this point. Oh, God. Either way, based on the results of the autopsy, based on what FBI is saying, and after careful deliberation and review, it looks like they tried to remedy the issues that we talked about 3 months ago. The FBI is alleging investigative material by both U.S. Attorney's Office. Federal prosecutors informed Ms. Robinson family today that the available evidence does not support a federal prosecution. This is absolutely heartbreaking and devastating, and I'm so angry that this young lady lost her life, and there's been so much, efforts to fight for this young lady's justice. And it all stems back, in my opinion, I'm just going to stick with my opinion, and y'all have your opinion. It all stems back to Mexico. I really feel it's Mexico's fault. They dropped the ball. There's a huge issue with their conviction rate, which I talk about in that video that I played. I'll actually put a link to that video if you want to watch the entire video, because I actually went over an article regarding the huge problems with Mexico and their ability to prosecute cases. Their cases fail all the time. There's all kinds of issues with that. I mean, oh my gosh, Mexico does not have a good reputation as it relates to prosecuting crime. And their problems with evidence. So, guys, this is just so heartbreaking, man. Oh my God, I'm so sad. Yes, Christine, at the end of the day, man, there's no justice. This is so heartbreaking. But I will be coming back because they are doing a press conference, guys. They are doing a press conference. And it looks like, you know what I'm thinking, in my humble opinion, I think Biden knew about this, which is why he was so quiet. It wasn't really talking about it, because he already probably talked to the FBI and knew all this, because they were real quiet. They weren't really saying much. This is just messed up. I will be back tonight to talk about the press conference, because I want to hear from the family. I'm pretty sure it's playing right now, so y'all can go watch it. But we will come back and talk about the press conference. This is so messed up, y'all. Woo, all right, I love y'all, man. Man, I'm so angry. Because I was hoping that somehow the FBI was going to be able to remedy that issue, the causation issue. But it was a huge issue that I saw back in 3 months ago. And it looks like they never did resolve it. Oh, God, this is so messed up. All right, guys, I'm going to try to leave for now. I'll be back. Love y'all. Take care.